I-teen female, originally was meant to be a bridesmaid at my brother's 25 male wedding in 2020, but they canceled when my sister-in-law found out she was pregnant. There was no talk of a wedding till 2 weeks ago, when they surprised us by saying they were legally married, but will have an official wedding with family and friends at sister-in-law's aunt's mansion to save money for the honeymoon. I was excited, even thought sister-in-law was going to ask me to be maid of honor when she and my sister, 25 female, asked to talk to me alone. Well, no, I wasn't maid of honor or even invited, apparently. The aunt said kids weren't allowed at her mansion, but she'd allow my sister's daughter, the flower girl, and my brother's baby to be at the ceremony for 20 minutes so they could take pictures. Then they had to leave where she'd shut down the wedding. They explained since it's a child-free wedding, and I was technically a child, LOL, I wouldn't be allowed to attend anyway. So they decided I'd babysit, along with the bride's teen cousin, a total of 9 kids, as a way of being involved in the wedding without being there. My sister-in-law had the nerve to tell me she'd even count it as a wedding gift if I would take a few days off school to babysit while she's on her honeymoon. I honestly couldn't speak due to shock till my sister suggested I should take their kids overnight because they'd all be hungover the next day. I screamed, "No, no, no, I'm not your nanny. Don't ask me to ever babysit again, ever. Screw you and your kids," before busting out crying. My parents came into the room demanding to know what happened, so I told them and they were angry. My dad said I wasn't their slave and he was sick of them treating me as such. My mom said if they even attempt to pressure me in any way to babysit again, they wouldn't pay anything towards the wedding. We all got into a massive fight. My brother told my parents not to go to the wedding, and my sister claimed I was the favorite, so she isn't on speaking terms with them either. The wedding ended up being canceled because the other girl wouldn't babysit alone, so no childcare, and they were counting on the money from my parents for multiple things. My brother texted me today, "I hope you're happy, you little witch. This is all your fault. You ruined my wedding all because you couldn't accept it was child-free. You're pathetic." My sister texted me similar stuff all day, blaming me for being petty. And if anyone is wondering, my siblings are twins. Not the idiot. If in their eyes you are too young to attend the wedding, then you're too young to babysit. They didn't want you to come because they wanted a free babysitter. They should hire one and simply stop being so entitled. If the wedding was actually going to happen, they would have hired babysitters and paid for the wedding themselves. This is not on you, and you're being used as the scapegoat. It's pathetic they expected free labor from 2 teens for their wedding. And it's pathetic to act like the problem was just not being invited. If they couldn't afford babysitters, and they couldn't afford to have the wedding at a venue with such strict rules, they couldn't afford a wedding. You aren't responsible to make up for their financial shortfall. You aren't responsible for making their ends meet. And the audacity to then expect you to take off school to babysit while they went away on their honeymoon? What? That takes some mental gymnastics. Yeah, screw them. They're already married. They just won't be able to have a party due to their own rude, entitled behavior and poor planning. Childcare isn't OP's responsibility. I'm just happy that OP seems to have great parents who put a stop to this nonsense immediately and protected their kid. I hate these entitled brides and grooms. Getting married doesn't mean you can treat people like trash and then expect them to want to do acts of kindness for you. You are not the idiot. They can't have it both ways. They claim you're a child, so you can't attend a child-free wedding, but you're adult enough to supervise 9 children for days and nights and miss multiple school days to accommodate as well? Child-free weddings generally mean 12 and under, unless it's a venue that has an age restriction for insurance or legal purposes. In her aunt's home, there is no difference between you attending now or after your next birthday, other than they just wanted to use you and don't care about you celebrating their marriage with them. So I, 19 female, and my cousin, 22 male, were hanging out last Friday. We were just chatting away while eating some nachos. I bring up how you can fit a light bulb into your mouth, but you can't take it out. He just says, "Huh?" And we continue talking. Well, I guess he didn't believe me because he tried it Tuesday night. From what I could gather from his story, he started yelling, and his mother, my aunt, 64, came upstairs to check on him. She took him to the ER when she saw that there wasn't a way to get it out. I'm not sure how, but they removed it without hurting him. He called me up yesterday and he was angry. He said if I didn't say anything, he wouldn't have tried it. I thought that was total BS and started arguing back that he made a stupid decision, which wasn't on me. My aunt was in the same room and he gave her the phone to talk to me. She explained that it might have been his decision, but I still opened the door for it to happen. She compared it to someone leaving meds on the counter and how it's both the person who laid the meds down and the person who used it. The analogy made sense, and I feel guilty now. However, I'm still torn on whether I'm an idiot or not. I feel like I'm just stubborn, and I'm not sure what to think. Any insight would be greatly appreciated. Not the idiot. It's surprising your cousin has survived this long, and that's the dumbest analogy I've ever heard. If you leave meds on the counter and someone takes it, it's still 100% their fault. If they were a child, it'd be different, but we're talking about a 22-year-old. He needs to grow up. You didn't force him to do the stupid thing. You just mentioned a cool fact. If you had neglected to mention an inability to get it back out, you would have been. But as you didn't, this is all him. Not the idiot. Sorry, but this story made me laugh hard. He's a grown man. I was half expecting you to tell me it was a cousin under 10. Don't feel bad just because your cousin is an idiot and his mom thinks the sun shines out his butt. Next time it's brought up, say, if I told you it's impossible to survive jumping out of an airplane without a parachute, would you jump out of a plane to try and prove me wrong? He'll likely try to make out that it's not the same, but the principle is, and that'll be why he'll say that. Sweet fancy Moses. What gets me is that OP told a 22-year-old guy exactly why he shouldn't stick a light bulb in his mouth, and his mama is still blaming OP? Yeah, I had to go back and reread the pages here. Your aunt would have a point if he were a toddler or a preschool. This man is older than you. Wow. It goes without saying, you are not the idiot. My husband, 35 male, and I, 30 female, just bought a house and received housewarming gifts, including 2 very nice and expensive fake candles that look realistic and have timers so they'll turn off and on at certain times. My mom bought us the candles because she knows how much I love real candles, but she also knows my husband won't let me use real candles because he's concerned about fire safety for our house and our dog. Last night I turned the candles on for the first time, and he immediately asked me to turn them off or move them. His reasoning, they looked too much like real candles and they were making him anxious. I relented and we moved the candles out of his line of sight. Later that night, before bed, he turned the candles off. I didn't notice because he went to bed after me. The next day after work, he told me he turned the candles off. I asked him why, and I explained to him that he messed up my timer. He explained that he doesn't like seeing them on when I'm not in the room because he thinks it's a fire. At this point, I asked him if he realized that his stance on these fake candles was a little extreme, and he said he didn't think so. So I pushed back, saying I gave up using real candles for him. Why can't I have fake candles? He pushed back and said that I could use the fake candles, but he doesn't want them to be set on a timer because it makes him too nervous. I pushed back and reminded him that he grew up never using candles and just needs time to get used to them. And I reminded him that a real fire would look and feel and smell different than these 2 fake candles my mom gave us. We reached an impasse in our discussion, and once again I asked him if he at least realized that his position was extreme. He disagreed and said he thinks the use of fake candles isn't a necessity in life, so why do I need them? I explained that life is a dumpster fire and a flood, and sometimes it's just nice to have nice things, like pretty candles on timers. He also explained to me that fire safety is very important. Our new house is in a town that only has a volunteer fire department and no fire hydrants. I agreed but reminded him again that these are fake candles I'm asking to use on a timer. In the end, I asked him if he thought that strangers would side with him or me. He thinks you will all agree with him that prohibiting the use of real candles and limiting the use of fake candles is a reasonable ask. I think you will all agree with me that what he's asking me to do is extreme. What do you think? Not the idiot. Prohibiting the use of real candles is unreasonable. Prohibiting the use of fake candles is downright crazy. Tell him it's time to put on his big boy pants or get into therapy. He's so deep in he doesn't realize how bizarre his behavior is. Not the idiot. Tell him you'll stop using the fake candles if he also accepts that he can't use light bulbs either, because fake candles are effectively just small light bulbs. Like if this were about fire safety, he'd be checking your fire extinguishers regularly and making sure you had regularly placed smoke detectors. He's not. He's just trying to stop you from having something that reminds him of fire. That's not safety. That's neuroticism. Unless your husband has a serious fire-related trauma that you've left out, you are not the idiot. Are you allowed to use anything else with a battery? Because if his worry is something shorting in the fake candle and causing a fire, then I would hate for him to learn about clocks or watches or kids' toys. Also, what about electricity? Does he know about ovens, toasters, microwaves, hair dryer? Update. Am I the idiot for asking my husband to let me use fake candles? He read through the comments. He laughed for a long time reading these comments because he genuinely found it funny, until I point blank asked him not to laugh and to take it more seriously. He said that reading the comments he can see how, yes, he was totally in the wrong, but he didn't think he was being controlling. He just thought he needed more time to get used to the idea of the fake candles. I proceeded to call him out on that nonsense, and we had an hour-long discussion. There was a lot we covered that went beyond just the candle issue, but specifically candles. I asked him if he seriously had some kind of trauma with fire. He said it's probably partially a Japanese thing, because his parents are Japanese and in Japan, people are stricter with fire because of earthquakes. So growing up, his parents didn't allow candles. But then he also admitted to me that he doesn't like the smell of candles, and so that plus the combination of fire safety has made him adamant that I not use candles. He said he didn't think he was controlling and didn't want to be, and he said he would get over the fear of real candles, but does want me to be in the room for them. Then for the fake candles, he said he was just being dumb and I can do whatever I want with them. I asked him why it took hundreds of strangers on the internet to get him to admit he was being ridiculous, because this is not the first time he has disagreed with me and refused to entertain an idea or desire I had, only to be convinced days or weeks later by things he read on the internet or conversations he's had with coworkers. I reminded my husband of the well issue as another time it took the power of a group of other people to convince him, and he told me that the issue is that I don't explain things in a way that makes sense to him, and/or sometimes it just does take him some time to get used to ideas when they're not his own. He wants me to be more accepting of him being reluctant to new ideas and wants me to take more initiative, i.e. do what I want even if he disagrees. That is a challenge for me, so it's something I can work on. We talked about larger issues in our communication then, and one of my failings has not been noticing the effort that he does put into our relationship. I counted that I do, but our miscommunications sometimes overshadow the good things, so that's where we're at. I can use candles now, and maybe even real ones, and he won't lecture me. And for sure my fake candles are in the living room. It's not really about the candles though. I just want to not have disagreements and fights over stupid stuff. Maybe if I have more confidence in my own decisions, and he has more empathy for my point of view, we'll get better. Thank you to everyone for your responses. OP, it's not that you don't explain it correctly. It's that he doesn't value your input as much as he does everyone else's. He doesn't think you know what you're talking about in literally any scenario, it seems, and trusts complete strangers more than he trusts you about anything involving y'all's lives. Whenever you say something needs to be done or isn't a big deal, he seems to say, "Aw, that's cute. Now stop talking and let the grown-ups deal with it." I've been there and that sucks. I'm sorry. So this is sadly a more common problem than you and your husband may realize, and a lot of time, it comes from a fundamental sense of dismissal by the partner who refuses to listen. That would not fly in a professional environment among coworkers of equal status. He needs to confront himself with that and ask himself why he is, in effect, relegating you to a lower tier of respect and validity than he would someone he works with. Sure, you may need to work on your end of the communication spectrum, but he has to meet you halfway. It's not a Japanese thing. That's just him making more excuses. Your husband kinda sucks. Sorry, OP, but sounds like he has a problem of not respecting you enough to actually listen to you and compromise, to the point where he values strangers' opinions more than yours. Most controlling men don't think they're controlling monsters. and most abusers don't think they're being abusive, but actions speak louder than words. His actions speak louder than his words. He's a misogynistic pig on top of being controlling. I, female 18, was born from a product of an affair. My mom was married when she met my dad, and one thing led to another, and she got pregnant. They decided to keep the baby, and I would spend the majority of the time at my dad's and visit my mom every few months. When I was a teen, my dad died in a car accident, so I lived with my mom for 6 months before I moved in with my parents on the West Coast. I'm originally from New York City. My grandparents spoiled me from the day I moved in, from getting a nice car to spending well over $3,000 a month without it being an issue. This continued when I visited my family in New York City too. They would always come with me, and I would stay in the hotel with them over my mom. Well, when I turned 18, I found out that I had an inheritance from my dad. It's a huge amount of money, and I've been meeting with a financial advisor to invest and be able to live off of it for the rest of my life. I visited my family last week, where I let it slip that I had gotten an inheritance. This immediately sent a shockwave through my mom's family, as none of them went to college or anything and worked minimum wage jobs. The next day when I went over, they had planned multiple things that I knew they couldn't afford: luxury shopping, spa treatments, etc. I asked them where they got the money, and they all laughed at me. They figured that I was sharing my money with all of them, but I wasn't. I'm not close with any of them. My sisters are not even my sisters. They're half-sisters. I get my mom nice things, but I don't tend to get them much, as they always left me out and made comments about me being a snob and other things. They blew up on me when I told them I didn't plan to share it, as this is the money I have to live off of. They said that I could change their lives, but I'm greedy. I told them that I would help pay for college, but they didn't want to do that. They sent me texts saying things like, "I already have pretty privilege, and I can get money from my grandparents too." My grandparents supported my decisions based on how they treated me in the past, and that it was my dad's dream for me not to work. So am I the idiot for not sharing it with them? Not the idiot. Please do not give them money for college. Do not give any money to anyone who calls you a snob or tries to guilt trip you into giving them money. If they keep asking, stop talking to them. You're an adult. You can do what you want, and you don't need these leeches in your life. Also, your finance person probably told you this already, but set a budget in advance for how much you want to spend on other people each month/year, so you don't get carried away even with the people you like. Not the idiot. Your mom didn't even raise you. Your dad did. Unless I misunderstood, she didn't become a part of your life until your dad died, and she was fine letting your grandparents finish raising you. Your mom and her family don't even see you as a person. They see you as a bank account. So I'd go low contact with them, at the very least. I do think you should get something special for your grandparents, even if it is just a little vacation trip or something. Make sure they know how much you appreciate what they did for you. You are not the idiot for not sharing your inheritance, so just ignore any of your family's guilt tripping. But I would also urge you not to live a meaningless life with no purpose. Instead, use your inheritance to study to enrich your mind, travel, and try to learn new things. But most importantly, do try to find a job or work of some sort at least a few years down the road, something that you enjoy doing. It's always good to have a backup plan.